installed Festo Automation Suite, we have shown you how to download the additional updates for the Festo Automation Suite. We've talked about the firmware updates for the controllers and how to use Festo Automation Suite for that. The next thing here is to create a project, so our base project. Okay, and if you are in here right now, you're in the Automation Suite, which is a new project. If you're not here, I'll just start it back up again so we get the same screen. So I'm just going to double click, start it up here. Okay, so we started up the software again, and the first thing you do here, you can click on New Project. So I click on that, so we end up where we were. And these boxes right here are where you add your devices or your hardware. So you can click on this, and you can scroll down here, and you find that there's multiple controllers here. Navigate backwards here, you have different devices. Depends, all of this depends on what you've installed. So in this case here, we're going to be using a motor controller. So we're going to look for a slave, and it's going to be EthIP device, electric drives. This is where our EthIP controllers are. Alternatively, you can come up to here and type in what you have. So this is what I have here. Again, alternatively, you can put the part number in. So I'm going to click on this and say add device. Okay, so it's added this device. At this point, normally you would want to rename to suit your project here. I'm just going to rename this. I don't know. Later we're going to use extended process data, so I'll call that extended process data 1. And we've got a controller added. And double click on that, and it'll start up the configuration tool for that. Okay. First thing you see are all these orange warnings. Just ignore those right now because we need to use the wizards to actually configure, and until that's done, the warnings will exist. The first thing we're going to do is exactly what's being offered to us, which is the start first setup wizard. So I'm going to click on this, and we're going to start to add our thing. So we've added our controller. Now we need to add a motor and axis and mounting kits or gears, whatever we have. So I have a very basic system. Again, like before, you can type in a part number, or you could type in the CMMT-AS 40 and then go that way. So in this case, I'm just going to click on that. It gives you some information about the device. I'm going to say apply. It's going to add that to the project. In the next case, this is all I have right now is a motor and controller, but you will probably have an axis. So I'm just going to finish off. I'm going to pick a linear axis. Working stroke. Put this in yourself. The feed constant. I'm not going to go unlimited. And click on apply. And then it's going to want a mounting kit between the axis and the motor. So in this case, I'm going to click on user define, click the default, hit apply. So at this point, when this is done, we're finished this section. So you can come over here, you can click on application data and continue this way, or you can click on the next button. And I have no load, but I'm going to put in a 0.01 mass. Really important is the rotation polarity. So if you have an axis here, this will look a little different. It could be that you can mount the motor in a different location. The voltage supply. So these controllers that I'm using here are the single phase controllers, and you have the option of selecting controller voltage supply. So in my case, I have 120. That affects the project itself. Nothing else here is needed, so you can click on hardware or click the next. And again, application or hardware, you can go back and forth here. And in my case, I have a reference switch, which is a normally closed contact, and I do have normally closed limit switches. That's it for this page. You can click on homing or hit next. The method I'm going to use is a negative reference switch with 0 pulse. So let's look at this. There it is. Okay, so this right here is obviously up to you in your application. Hit the next button. This is how you reference or home the axis. And then the next button here, software limits. I'm going to go with the defaults and say finish. We'll do some calculations for closed loop and manipulate the project to suit the hardware that you have right now. Okay, so we've got a configured hardware project, and we have this correct parameters. So what this is here is it's showing you, there's these large values for parameters. These P1, all these over here, these are all called parameters in the controller project here, and the recommendations based upon the hardware over here. So for some reason you may not like this and might not like the recommendations, you can uncheck this. But basically, whenever I start a project, everything's selected. It's giving me recommendations. I click on apply, and it rids the project of any of the warnings. And now we're set with a good project. Next thing we want to do is save this. Okay, I guess it's worth mentioning also that there are some quick keys that are not really advertised throughout the help files. So, like the control open, if you're in here, control O would be a quick key for that. Another quick key, which is what we'll discuss right now, is control S. So this has never been saved, so it knows it's never been saved, so it's offering save as. Alternatively, you can come up to the hamburger up top and click on save as. You come down here to the browse, and you're going to pick your location you want to put everything in. Okay, you'll see here how it's defaulted to my work files directory, which is where I have all my projects here. I'm going to back up a little bit and just talk about something else here under options. So if you go to options here, I've already come down here to this load and save, this project path here, and I've selected that directory. So if you come in here, click on browse and point to a directory that you want to have all your files, that's where it'll offer to save all the files on a regular basis. The other point of fact to mention is about the Windows operating system and the directory and file name limitations. So in general, Windows, and yes, they've probably changed that. Well, they have changed it in Windows 10. And there's some other features. I don't like to think about those ones, so I just stick to the old ones to make things sort of backwards compatible. Windows restricts a file name and with the directory names to 256 characters. So my point is, avoid saving projects in very long directories because the Festo Automation subdirectories and file names are extended during runtime. And if you go to try and save something at a later point, it could cause issues. Okay, so that's why I have this, very short directory name, and that's where all my projects are saved. Let's go back to saving here. Save as, browse, and give your project a name. In my case, I'm going to call it CMMT-AS, EP. Later, we're going to be using this extended process data, and then this is the plugin that's being used, and I'll give it an app. So what this is going to do is it's going to create a directory name off of this, and then there'll be many directories and file names within that directory. Okay, hit the save button, and I'll show you what happens in the Windows operating system afterwards. Right now it's building the architecture of the project. So if I now navigate to that directory, so I'm in the FAS, and you'll see here this is the directory we just created. And if you go into that directory here, later time, if you want to just open the project, you can come in here and just double click the file. But in general, it has this directory and all these different files. I don't need to know what those files are, it's just using those for everything. And this is what it's just done. Okay, so at this point, our base project has been created based upon the hardware that we have, and we're ready for any next step.